Can't hear
Is
you.
that on?
Yeah, it's on.
Top button. Oh, yeah, how about now?
That's better.
No.
Different mic, and not as easy as the old one.
There it is.
Okay. So, anyway, welcome again. And so it's a pleasure tonight for me to introduce Kristin. So Kristin was, for you newcomers, she was one of the originals. So this was after our reorganization. And Grace and I are having a conversation. We need one more person to be on the board of trustees. I said, I have an inspiration, Kristin. So I went right over to Frog Rock, and she was standing there. I still remember. She had like a little cap on or something. And I asked her. She said yes. That was it. Not, well, I think about it, or I'll get back to it. She said yes. And so she has been a real. I think you follow me as president, and she has been a dynamic leader for us for many, many years. And so she doesn't know I'm going to say this, but I talked to her mother, and she said that that Kristin, being the person that she is, when she went to graduate of Notre Dame, she was a double major, and graduated with marketing, and finance, and then from there she went to, that wasn't enough. She went to Villanova, where she graduated from law school. And she landed a job in the casino industry. Was doing well, and I guess Papa must have called, and she came home and to work in the family business. Most recently, that she has been a mother of 3, and also, remaining in the. Sorry, 2? 2.
I thought she adopted you too, Joe.
So I didn't say that. So anyway, that we also my pleasure to introduce the combo here, and we gave her Carol about 24 hours, 48 hours notice. And so she lives in the Hay House, Andrew Hay House, right on the corner. And so between both, and Kristin's her next door neighbor, that they have a whole hunk of early Hamilton there. And in fact, that was called, in later years, was called the Old Hamilton. And so Carol's been involved in historic things for years. She was on the Batstow committee. She was
1985.
okay, involved with Batstow, and she also was so kind enough to show me around one day that she only had the water went through her. You can still talk about that, but she gave me an original map that is also amazing. Also that Carol had a program, a fitness program for years, I know, and she used to chase me out of the pool at Kappa Ferries, and she's tough. So anyway, it's a pleasure to introduce, I know who's going first. You, Carol? Okay. So, Carol Martynuik.
I'm not used to using the microphone. Can you hear me?
No.
Plus I also am dealing with allergies, so my voice doesn't want to cooperate tonight, but we'll make do. I live on the corner of Pleasant Mills Road and the White Horse Pike, and it's a white colonial home with black shutters, and on the side it has a date, 1818. Don't believe it. A long time ago, Joe Wilson had told me that was not a correct date. I don't know where it came from. It was there when we moved in. But doing some reading for the program tonight, I came to realize that it was definitely not the right date. Plus an article that Joe Wilson had written in 1984 says that a building date of 1823 placed by a previous owner is boldly painted on one end of the house. I don't know where that is. An even earlier date of 1818 is on the house. But if we accept Wilbur in hand as sufficient authority that Hay did indeed build a place, and turning again to historian Prowl, Hay did not migrate to this area until 1829, so we are left with a building date no earlier than 1830. So the 1818 is really way off. In fact, if that were the correct date, Andrew Hay's bride would have been 5 years old. So I knew we didn't want to go there. Okay, I'm not a historian, I just live in a historic house. I love my house. To me, it's so much a part of my life. We've been there almost 50 years. So we've grown into each other. I have some pictures over here of the house, inside and out, and some stories to tell with those pictures. So after the meeting, if you want to go through and I can hopefully answer some questions, that would be fine. So my program is going to do the outside of Andrew Hay House, and then I'll take you inside. So, in early South Jersey, New Jersey was home to some of the more early glassworks than any other area in the region in New Jersey. So it's a rich heritage of glass. So in order to get to Andrew Hay, we have to go through William Coffin Sr., who came to Hamilton age 37 in 1812. His goal was to operate a sawmill for Dr. John Coates, just below the dam at Hamilton Lake. There are still some foundation that can be observed if you know where to look. And the White Horse Pike as it is today is not as it was back then. The White Horse Pike came over the dam, and water was routed from the lake down a sluiceway to this Coates sawmill. William Coffin bought the mill in 1814, the beginning of a small Coffin's Mill settlement. He partnered with Jonathan Hayes, who was experienced in glass, and built a glass works near the sawmill. Now, from the sawmill, a lot of the dust that came from the sawmill came over into my side yard, and that soil is really, really still fertile. I got a lot of my information as where my next door neighbor, Mamie Vaughn, lived. When we first moved to Hamilton, we were a very young family. There's a picture of us inside. My daughter was a half a year old, and my other two, I can't even remember. They were preschoolers. So, Haynes left Hamilton and went to build Waterford Works. Coffin in 1830 built another glassworks in Winslow and turned it over to his sons, of which he had 4. He had 8 children altogether. And his son-in-law, Andrew K. Hay, who married Coffin's daughter, Jerusha Ann. Coffin moved back to Green Bank and died there in 1844. The Hamilton Glassworks were destroyed by fire in 1840. William Coffin, born 1775 in Green Bank, and he died there 1844 when he was 69. William Coffin married Anne Bodine from Burlington County. lived in Hamilton from 1812 to 1842. Anne and William had many children. Joseph, William, the most famous with the glassworks, Mary, Parnell, Jerusha, another girl, Abigail Marshall, born in 1813, and John Hammond in 1816. Hay learned the glassworks trade at the Hamilton Glassworks, where he was operated from 1836 to 1838. And he operated that with his brother-in-law, Bodine Coffin. He is in the forefront of the building he was in the forefront of the building of the Camden and Atlantic Railroad, the first to pull the train from Camden to Absecon, or now Atlantic City, and it was in July 4th, 1854, and the first locomotive was called the Atsign, and the second locomotive was called the Andrew K. Hay. Does anyone want to guess what the K stands for in Andrew's name? Kessler. Yes, and you know, and I came upon that years and years ago. Someone had told me that, and I didn't find any of it in any of the readings that I was doing to prepare for today. Yeah. So, Andrew K. Hay was more influential in Winslow than he was actually in Hamilton. He was there longer, and eventually all the deeds and whatnot came into his possession. He purchased. He erected a mansion on Hay Street. Hay had experience in glassmaking from the Hamilton Works, along with his brother-in-law, Bodine Coffin. They eventually took on another partner, Tristan Bodine. This partnership of three continued until 1847. In 1847, Coffin Jr. sold his interest to his brother Edward Winslow and John B. Hay, a nephew of Andrew Hay, and the firm became Hay and Company. So in 1851, the Hays, uncle and nephew, became sole owners of the glassworks. The village was on its way to development. In 1852, Hay drove an artesian well 315 feet to ensure a supply of water for the growing village. A large stream and sawmill and gristmill were erected. This is in Winslow. Local grain was ground into flour. Andrew Hay fruit boxes and other items were cut and assembled at the sawmill. Some years, 100,000 fruit boxes were shipped, mostly to farms in the Absecon and Shore area. Andrew Hay died in February 17, 1881, and was active in various enterprises until age 72 when he passed. In 1881, there were two big window light factories, a hollowware factory, a gristmill, a sawmill, a large store, a post office, about 100 company houses, and several hundred acres of land under cultivation, and that was wheat. Glass burros make large pay, some as high as $10 a day, and average is $5. A large amount of coal and wood is consumed. The county is kept denuded to supply fuel that was needed. John Hay and Andrew Hay's heirs, carried on to Winslow Enterprise until 1884. The works were leased by the Tillier Brothers of Philadelphia, but things were declining. On May 30th, which was Memorial Day in 1982, fire destroyed the works. In their day, the Winslow glass workers were among the most important in the state. Bottles and flasks turned out there are prized and collected items today. Squire Hay, as he is known in the village, was a remarkable man. He was a politician, elected to Congress, and served under 2 presidents. Okay, with the little town of Winslow, he gave the company houses that are there a new coat of whitewash. Did this each spring, and the same with the white picket fences, and they all had gardens. He was a very meticulous man, and I have his picture here. It was given to me years ago by Selma Petters. When she knew that I was living in Andrew's house, she had shared the picture of Andrew Hay. He's on a horse, and it has to be Winslow Village. So you can come around later and look at this fascinating picture. Andrew Hay died February 17th. Let me back up. Hay was part of a group that built the Camden and Atlantic City Railroad. One of the first I told you was Andrew Hay, when his name of the engine. When one of his daughters was married, decorated rail cars carried wedding guests from Winslow Junction to the Hay home over a privately owned spur. When Andrew Hay died, February 17th, 1881, after the funeral was held at the Manor House, his body was carried over the same spur in a car draped in somber black. At the junction, the car was loaded on a main line of the railroad that he helped build and carried mourners to Coal Town Cemetery near Haddonfield on today's Route 38. Yeah. And it's always been a goal of mine to go and find it because he was buried in the coffin plots. So it would be interesting to see those old stones. Okay. Now I'm going to take you on a journey to the inside of my house. We give it a date of 1830. You can still see that it has today white clapboard. But this was the clapboard that was on it originally. It's cedar. And someone told me that it looked like a red barn. The additions on each side were put on in the 1920s. When we moved into the house, it was all wallpapered. And with 3 little kids, it didn't take long to find the crayons coloring in on the wallpaper. So we gradually removed the wallpaper, and the original plaster is still underneath. up stenciling all the rooms, and you can see some of the work on those pictures. And I also, one of the things that I really, really enjoyed doing was removing, believe it or not, the paint from the banister. Going up, it's fir, and it's just beautiful. And a neighbor thinking that the owners of the house were the Drakes at that time were going to improve. That they had Mr. Austin, who's lived in Vince Giannini's office on the Pike. Mr. Austin was really great with woodworking, and he came down and he took the Yule post that was there, and the Drakes wanted to cover it up, so he built a cover around it. To me, it was always an eyesore and out of place. So when I stripped the banister, I thought, well, let's see what's under here. And I was so happy because it looks so bad. The tops of the railings where you grab it to go up the steps are all worn down, and you can see the square-headed nails protruding through. I mean, it sounds nasty if you don't like that, but to me it's wonderful. So you go up the steps, and then they twist, about 4 steps twist, come to a little landing, and then there's 2 more steps, and you're upstairs. And the original house had 3 bedrooms, and over time, middle bedroom was converted into an indoor bathroom and a walk-in closet. But when we first moved there, I would lay in bed and I would look out over into the lake. And it was so nice and peaceful, and I still do that today. We had a beautiful sunset, by the way. Let's see, what else can I share? Going upstairs from the 2nd floor, we have attic steps that are very narrow, and they go up and again twist. They're called twisters or pie-shaped steps. Very similar to what you find in the houses down in Batstow when you want to go up to the 2nd floor in those little cottages. And there's a lot of hardware in our house that is very similar to what Batstow has on their buildings. So let me think, what else do I want to share? The fireplaces are nice. They're nice and big. And there's 4 fireplaces in the house. 2 downstairs and of course 2 upstairs, and the ones upstairs the mantles are much smaller, but they're fir. So I had to strip those down, and they match the banister and the railing going up the steps. When you go up to the attic, over the 200 years that the house has been in existence and people going up and down, where the hand placements are, you can tell because people's oils from the hands touch the wood and they're just as shiny as can be. They look like they have varnish on them. So these are the kind of little things that I really enjoy in the Andrew K. house. The one owner, Arlene Measley, Arlene Drake. Anyone know Arlene? Yeah. Well, anyway, I called her on the phone and tried to get some additional information because I don't have much about her family. And she was kind of lacking for memories a little bit. Plus, they were at a party for her great-grandchild. So she was not too communicative. But anyway, Arlene married John Measley. Arlene's family came from the Drake house, which is landlocked behind myself and Kristin. And Colonel Drake was commissioned by Lincoln in the Civil War. Now I know all of this because of the oral history from Mrs. Vaughn, who made Kristin's house. Arlene Measley married John Measley. Arlene Drake married John Measley. And his family lived in the old G.W. Nicholson home on Central Avenue, the artist. Selma Petters I told you about, Measley.
Horace was the landscaper extraordinary for the Loveland House, which became the Colasurdo House. And still today, you can see the trails that he made throughout, all the properties.
Okay, so this was,
Horace. John's father.
I don't know that. Okay. Thank you. So as you look over these items here, these little things like this. This little box with a crochet doll hat in it. A little crochet pocketbook. A tiny, tiny pocketbook. Were all treasures I found in the attic of the house, along with a pair of stocking stretchers. And there was also a big red picture hat. Arlene's mother, Pearl Drake, loved to wear hats. And it was perfect play tool for my kids when they were little and growing up. They had fun with that one. Okay, there are two bottles over here that are Andrew K. Hay whiskey flask, and the other is called Hollowware. Lots of times in the backyard after it rains, I will find slag glass because the glassworks was across the street from Kessler Hospital, where it is now. And that's all I know. That was there, the coffin house was where the Kessler Hospital is now, and it was torn down so the hospital could be built. And I just think it's so ironic that Andrew K. Hay has the middle name of Kessler. Yeah. Okay. I'll put these down here. And there's lots of little pieces of glass here. And these are authentic glass for the windows that were made down at Batstow. I went, and you're not to tell anyone, because you're not supposed to take anything away from the site. But I just saw these on the ground, and I thought they were really, really pretty, and they are so historic, because their glassworks, along with the coffin hay, were running at the same time. Jesse Richards was using the glassworks down at Batstow. Sometimes after a rain, I will go out in the yard and I will find, sometimes after a rain, I will go out in the yard and find bottles. Isn't this a cute little pumpkin-shaped bottle? And this one here isn't as old, but inside it has, looks like brushes to painters, an artist's brush, their hairs stuck on the product. Yeah. So anyway, that's my story.
Okay, so while we're changing over here, I just want to add something about, you probably know about Arlene Drake, that she and Robert Seeley were on ice skating on the Hamilton Lake, and they went through the ice, and Jack Vaughan saw and rescued them, and for that he was given the Carnegie Medal.
Oh, wow.
And I just thought of the other thing I wanted to share. In the 1950s, when the Playhouse was in operation through Anna Fenna, actors used to come and stay in our house. And that I only know of two, Ephraim Zimbalist Jr. and Anthony Burke. But they had to have a house somewhere to use events. Okay.
Thank you, Carol.
You're welcome.
Well, she sounds very reasonable.
Does anybody know what channel it needs to be on?
There's one in the door. The door over there.
It's on the side too, Greg. I can get up to the side.
Oh, I'm sorry. One thing is you might want to use the input button where it says TV.
I told Carol that you'd come over and help me volunteer a couple times. Pet stuff. And we go there and park.
Yeah.
I told her to come over and help me.
Yeah.
And she liked it. She said, it's very nice of him to do that. She said,
Oh, well, always
I
somebody.
said, but he brought coffee. The guy gave me coffee.
Yeah, but I paid for it. You were the boss. Yeah.
I'm changing the switch so it. Laptop's
So
okay,
it
right?
says HDMI one.